What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with my top 5 overrated NFL teams heading into the 2018 season. These are the teams that Las Vegas odds makers have projected to be better than I believe they will be in 2018. When your team is overrated, I know it isn't always easy to hear, but at least let me explain. And if you don't agree, respond reasonably in the comments below. Let's kick this top 5 off with the New York Giants. The Giants are really a subject of their surroundings. They live in America's #1 market, the hype machine of New York. And given some of the individual talent, they will just have every single headline across America when it comes to the NFL. Saquon Barkley, otherwise known as Saquad Barkley, is no doubt going to be a top 10 running back from the jump. Ingram and Shepard are great complementary players, yet there are a ton of issues with the G-men. Speaking of those wide receivers, they lack depth at that position. They don't really have a number 3 receiver. While they did sign Nate Solder at left tackle, they still have a lackluster right side of the offensive line. The defense lacks the typical New York talent. They are going through a full scheme switch and in some regard a talent switch as well, especially at linebacker. They brought in Ogletree from the Rams, but he's been pretty overrated recently, and besides him, they don't really have anyone else that's a name in the NFL. Olivier Vernon is making a switch from defensive end to primarily outside linebacker in more of a 3-4 alignment. You also have Lorenzo Carter, who I like, but he is a rookie. The secondary is not as good as it once was, and outside of Janoris and Landon, really the depth isn't there. And Eli Apple at corner is a hothead, and does anyone know who their slot cornerback even is? So that being said, the last and biggest reason the G-men are overrated, more than any other reason, is their quarterback position, the Eli Manning problem. Can Pat Shurmur actually come in and fix Eli Manning? Can he help him with his offensive scheme? I'm not sure if you really can fix Eli Manning at this point in his career. He's just a little bit too old, and to me, from what I've seen, the problems with Eli are not psychological, they're not scheme fit. They're just physical. I think Eli Manning is done, and any reason for G-men fans or people to believe in them this year, I think is just wishing and dreaming for things to happen. I don't see it in the Giants going into the 2018 season. The next team on the overrated list is the Giants' rival. So if you're a Giants fan, you would be happy to know that the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, I also believe they are overrated going into 2018. America's team, they do lack the flashiness in 2018. The Cowboys have probably the worst wide receiver core in the entire NFL and no starting caliber tight end on their roster to be seen. Losing Dez Bryant and Witten, those are their 2 top targets of the 2010s. The offense really comes down to just Dak and Zeke, and I don't know who else. Yeah, the offensive line is good, but does that even matter when teams and defenses across the league will just stack the box with no threat of the pass or the deep ball because they don't have a receiver to run past you? Without Sean Lee, their defense falls apart. The defensive line is good, but Irving is suspended at the start of the year, placing a lot of pressure on the shoulders of DeMarcus Lawrence. The secondary is filled with a bunch of unknowns and young dudes, and the safety spot is crazy sketchy. Jason Garrett is a really good clapper, but not much of a coach. The Giants are at least more talented this year. The Redskins I project to be a bit better than last year, and the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. It will take a miraculous season from Dak and Zeke at quarterback and running back to really make this happen. And as long as Jerry Jones has as much control as he does with this team, it's likely that this team is going to stay overrated for the foreseeable future. The next team on the overrated list is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are going through a transition year, an identity crisis. They're not the Seahawks we have known from 2012 to 2016. That 4 to 5 year span was absolutely incredible for the Seahawks and Seattle. But these Seahawks are different. These Seahawks are way too reliant on their quarterback, Russell Wilson. Their coach, Pete Carroll, doesn't really seem to have a secure handle on the team. and they're lacking studs on the defensive side of the ball. Defense used to be the Seahawks' calling with the Legion of Boom and all, but the Legion has retired or left. Cam Chancellor, he's retired. Richard Sherman, he's in San Francisco. Their defensive line is not nearly the same. Cliff Averill has retired. Michael Bennett is in Philadelphia. Do we even know if Earl Thomas is actually going to be a Seahawk in September? This defense is not the same one we fell in love with, that's for sure. And yeah, they do still have Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright, but outside of those two, the defense is truly suspect, especially on the defensive line and at the corner position. Offensively, as I stated earlier, this all falls on number 3. Wilson will have to make do with an interesting cast of characters. Outside of Doug Baldwin, who is reliable, Brandon Marshall is old. Tyler Lockett is a glorified punt returner. Jerron Brown is not John Brown. Jimmy Graham is gone. Ed Dixon is going to be the tight end. The offensive line is still amongst the worst, and sure, they drafted Penny in the first round, but if no one can block for him, are you really expecting him to change the complexion of the Hawks offense? This Seahawks team severely lacks the talent of its predecessors, and for people to still be expecting a playoff caliber team outside of a Wilson miracle, that's pretty ludicrous. The 4th team on the overrated list is the Green Bay Packers. While the Packers had one of the flashiest offseasons they've really ever had in their organization's history, the Packers remain overrated. Aaron Rodgers is an amazing quarterback, don't get me wrong, but he cannot be expected to take this team to the promised land year in and year out. Doesn't matter what the talent is. This team last year fell apart without him. Last season, they were garbage, and yet they are the 6th favorite to win the Super Bowl. Offensively, the Packers remain pretty dynamic. I won't lie there. Despite having limited creativity in play calling, a non-existent run game, and an offensive line that has taken some severe hits over the past 2 years, especially at the guard position. Despite all of that, they still do have number 12. They do have a good combination at wide receiver in Adams and Cobb, and the newly signed Jimmy Graham at tight end will be nice. The absence of Jordy Nelson, I think, will hurt the wide receiver depth as well as a tad in the chemistry department, but the Packers on offense should remain good. I'll be honest, I like the potential of the defense. The defense has potential, especially the defensive line. But defensively, the secondary is very inexperienced, and it's just a huge gamble for a team that's looking to win the Super Bowl. Even at safety, with Josh Jones playing beside Clinton Dix, where they've been solid for so many years at that position, that's kind of sketchy. Defensive depth overall is just not quality for this team. It's likely that the Packers are going to be a playoff team, but that is mostly due to their quarterback, a consistent head coach, and some skill players. At 14-1, this is not a Super Bowl contender, at least in my opinion. There are far more balanced rosters out there for you to put your money on. And the last team that I believe is overrated going into the 2018 season, I would have never expected this because I love the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, Jimmy Garoppolo, and even Richard Sherman. But when did the 49ers go from being a nice story and up-and-comer to 2018 Super Bowl contender? Isn't that a little bit quick? At 20-1 odds to win the Super Bowl, the 49ers are tied with or above the Atlanta Falcons, the LA Chargers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Carolina Panthers, while just being right under the New Orleans Saints. That's pretty wild. The offense isn't the issue for me, though, with the 49ers. They have talent and the mind to get it done, even to an elite level, a playoff level. The 49ers' big question mark to me is going to be their defense, and can it be good enough? Can the defensive line get pressure? They have a few high picks along the line, but really outside of Buckner, nobody is good. Reuben Foster is talented, but suspended to start the season. Besides him, their linebacking core is not very good. Malcolm Smith is your number 2, and that's not exactly ideal unless it's 2013. Not sold on their free safety spot, and do we really even know the quality that Sherman will be back to? I don't know. There are just a lot of questions with little proof with the 49ers. Not to mention, Jimmy G has never even completed a full season yet. Let's just calm down on the 49ers a little bit. They might be a playoff team. I may even think they might be a playoff team, but they're not a Super Bowl contender. Can we just get that out of our heads right away? Come on. So those are my top 5 overrated teams heading into the 2018 NFL season. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, hit the like button and subscribe for more NFL content. It's Mitch at The Bottom Line View. Peace out.